What's up, guys? Ash here. Our veterans will likely not be surprised by this, but if you're newer and just reaching endgame content, then this is a must-have pet for sure. Of course, we're talking today about Gold Tongue, whom my friend endearingly named Mr. Dribbles, and I just went along with it. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. If you're unfamiliar with Gold Tongue, you can find him here in 47 Violent. He is sort of a pain to deal with. Right here we have Giselle running over to Tame, but unfortunately he triggers Forestallment and a cover fire goes off, I believe, from hazing. Um, Thankfully, Gold Tongue does have Second Heart, so he'll revive easily enough. But generally, then he'll teleport into the middle of your party and try to wreak havoc. In my party, that's just not possible with all the covers going on. So it can be kind of a pain to recruit him. And I highly recommend checking out the and video for Starlight Prison. Um, Even here, not only is Gold Tongue good at killing himself, he's also good at killing others. As you can see right here, Anne takes like 6,000 damage and dies, but she did get a Starlight Shield off on Giselle, so Giselle lives even though she took 11,000 damage. And this is just this is the kind of life Gold Tongue lives. But once you are able to recruit him, of course you will get randomized phase masteries, and of course whenever possible you guys would like to go for instinct, just because you can later on change that as opposed to genetics, which is kind of locked in. But if you are able to recruit Gold Tongue, he is amazing, and he basically plays as a assassin type pet class. Um, right here, we're gonna have him teleport actually into the middle of all these clowns, and of course, the black clowns tend to die pretty fast because of low block, but the white clowns have much higher block. Gonna be using his ultimate here, and as you can see, it has very good range. It hits 8 times, and it is just a murder fest. He is particularly amazing with taking out bosses, but he has a great standard kit as well. So right here, we're going to have a Ray attack, which is then going to trigger Giselle to attack. That Giselle attack will then trigger Pincer attack with Beast. So he'll get in a hit from there, and Giselle will get to go again. Pretty crazy stuff. And in the off chance that something actually approaches him, he can, of course, forestallment. But more importantly, since he's lightning based, he has a chance to stun as well. So there's really he's pretty savage, and defensively and offensively, he is an absurd unit for sure. His synergy with Giselle should not be underestimated. At any time, he can just 6 range attack with pincer attack with Beast. So, between that and forestallment, it's pretty crazy. On top of that, oh yeah, even here, had this mask had lived, he'd have gotten pincer attack with Beast. This one comes over, deals some damage to him, and I think it's important to also remember that he has condenser. So I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but he's at 999 stacks of condenser, which means there's never a point where he's missing damage. Right here he hits for 14,000, and I've purposely kitted him to basically avoid dealing damage where possible. But it's always good and important to know that anywhere Giselle is, and whoever you're fighting, whoever you're aiming at, keep Gold Tongue nearby, because he will always be able to support her in some form or way. However, make no mistake, Mr. Dribbles is definitely, well, his primary purpose is as an assassin type class. Right here, we're on 50 Violent, and Athad is camping nice and pretty up in the tower up here. And we're going to use an ability called Lightning Move. This is an incredible ability. If you're used to Wind Walk, this won't even hold a candle to Wind Walk. I believe it's 12 tile radius teleport. So he can appear at will pretty much any place that he wants. And so right here we use Thunder Veil, and I'll go into his defenses a bit later. But when we attack, we're actually only going to use Song of Thunder, and Song of Thunder actually works as basically a weaker version of his ultimate, Song of Storm. Song of Thunder is going to hit 3 times, so it's definitely not bad. And on top of that, it's also going to keep him in an overcharge. So I'm going to show you guys right here. This is particularly pretty neat. So, of course, Mr. Dribbles is a Lightning ESP user, and because of that, we've actually tacked him on with overflowing energy. And what overflowing energy will do is while you're in overcharge, any abilities and moves that you do are actually going to give you AT reduction. So normally pets have issues with speed and kind of keeping up. You see right here, just use Thunder Veil for defensives, and he got another 30 AT. So he's already dropped 24 and then 30. You better believe that he'll sit at 36 AT, which is the minimum cap um, at all times. And so even though we could use Song of Storm here, it'd be total overkill, and so we just use Song of Thunder. And this too, since he'll be staying in overcharge, you can see just at the end there all the AT reduction that he's getting. So he doesn't have that like crippling speed issue as much as other pets would have. So this is particularly interesting. Gold Tongue is also part of the Golden Trio family, and they have a unique genetic trait called luminescence. And so I don't have the footage for Mr. Dribbles, but if you'll notice right here, there's a flare up that Giselle is using, and we were able to clear all the crabs prior to this, but there are plenty of crabs that are sitting just outside the flare's radius. So I'm actually going to call in Gold Molar, and he's going to have luminescence, which will give position exposed to, I believe, all tiles in a six tile radius. And so, of course, this is particularly good against 52 violent crabs where they're always hiding, and maybe Kylie isn't over here with search protocol, or maybe Flare isn't up. And so I highly recommend this on Gold Tongue. He could also use the hit rate too, so it's definitely a great ability. Okay, and let's get into his abilities overview. So his basic attack is very important. Notice the ratios. He has a higher ESP ratio, which is great and really fits well into this build. He also does bonus damage to exposed state and increased damage based on distance per tile, so it's pretty awesome. On top of that, he'll also move the target and he'll increase AT on them, so you'll be able to use that for responsives. It's really an amazing basic ability, and you'll notice no cast delay, no cooldown, no rage, so that is awesome. I would like to say it's important to understand that the attack range and damage range on this is 6. And that means, yes, you will be able to use pincer attack with Beast at 6 range, but with Forestallment, it will still only be 1 range. And that's just how Forestallment is built out. You won't be able to use a 6 range Forestallment, unfortunately. You'll only find ranged Forestallment through abilities like Overwatch and or Kylie's Reactive Matrix. For general abilities, I actually recommend Thunder Veil, Song of Thunder, and Lightning Move. Thunder Veil is going to play into his defensive kit that I'll be going over in a short bit. But this basically murders ranged hit chance, and that can affect many things. So it's pretty darn good. It pushes his speed to up to about 100 normally, which is not bad considering it's a pet. Gives him armor, gives him resist, and then gives him some lightning resist, which can potentially play into his damage ratio if you were to run short circuit. Song of Thunder, this is probably the only maybe. Lightning move is just mandatory just because it's a movement ability and you really can't go wrong with that. But I particularly am fond of Song of Thunder because it's multi-hit and it's got good range. You'll see that you could take Lightning Explosion, and the range is pretty short, but you can do, full area damage based on the amount of targets. So it has the potential to do more. The modifiers are also really good, as well as the Naguri higher jump. You'll notice cast delay on this is pretty brutal, but the modifiers are pretty crazy. You're going to increase AT on the enemy, and the damage will increase per tile that you go. So these two are both great abilities. My concern with Naguri higher jump is that the area range is that of Ray's basic grenade, so just one, so just the immediate tiles around. And then what's particular to Song of Thunder is the multi-hit. So if you're fighting like a boss that has impulse fields, let's say Boris or Way, Song of Thunder would do the trick and just kill him outright versus Lightning Explosion or Naguri Jump. But you could certainly swap this out for either of these two, and it would be kind of your basic area damage without using your overcharge ability. And then, of course, finally we have Song of Storm. This is devastating, and particularly important to pay attention to the modifiers on this one. He gets a ton of damage from Lightning SP, and that's going to play into his build, but I think it's important to remember when we get to the items section. So this is his basic stat page. Nothing will really jump out at you as particularly crazy. He is getting a lot from Control Nerve Network. You'll see his armor and resist at over 1,000 is definitely good. This isn't tank stats, but it's not mage stats either. He's getting a little bit of block, nothing to write home about. His dodge chance is respectable. This is not terrible by any means. But I'd like to remind everyone that this is also not including Trained Beast from Giselle. This is not including Brave Beast from Giselle, which gives a ton of stats. So this is a bit deceptive on first glance. But most importantly, we're actually going to go for gearing Killer's Mark. And believe it or not, this is going to play into his defenses, which I'll go over in just a sec here. Okay, and finally we have the mastery board. So, of course, important to note his class mastery. He is Naguri, so he'll have some bonuses in water. He'll recover 10% of his health just from being in water and or polluted water, like you see in, I want to say 47 Violent. Also, if it's raining, he'll have an increased tip recovery, which is pretty cool. And particular to note, obviously water is good for all Naguri, but particularly strong for Gold Tongue because he will have increased lightning damage while he's in the water, and of course he's a Lightning ESP user, so that's pretty awesome. Along the lines of being a Lightning ESP user, believe it or not, he actually has double the effect that Sion would have. So Sion actually, his critical strike chance will increase by 0.3 per Lightning SP. And of course with Mr. Dribbles, it'll be 0.6. That means for every 10 Lightning SP, you'll have 6% crit chance. For every 100 Lightning SP, you have 60% crit chance. And with this current build, I'm running 300 SP with Awaken. So basically, he'll go straight to 180% crit chance, and that's not counting anything else. So his critical strike chance is just through the roof, and it plays very similarly to Sion. Also, for his growth phases, the only thing I would recommend that's mandatory is in-rush training, just so you can use that kind of immediate tactical nuke. And if you guys aren't used to that, I'll show you that in the showcase. Because, like I said before, because he's part of the Golden Trio, I particularly love Luminescence, not just for bringing crabs out. It's increased hit chance. It's a 6-tile radius, which plays very well with, his Deadly Whip, Tongue Attack, his basic attack, all of the songs, Song of Thunder, Song of Storm, so it just seems to work really well. And don't forget, anything that is near him will also grant hit chance to your allies, as well as exposed state, not just for crabs, but, removing like Darkness Hunter on rogues and stuff in 46 Violent and 50 Violent. So definitely amazing ability and unique to their family. And then mine came with growth potential. I would actually, if I could, I would swap this out for extra basic slot and give this guy, what's it called, nerve stimulus. But that's just me. Anyway, on to the board. So this is the Sloppy Licks Mastery board. I should have spent more time on the name, but oh well, whatever. For core offensive masteries, we're actually going to be taking Giant Thunder. This is very similar to Sion, and Atom Decomposition makes up one of the strongest abilities in the game. He'll basically be getting 5% resistant shred per lightning mastery. This board is easily running 20 lightning masteries as a heads up. So he has 100% resistant shred using this. On top of that, and this is particular to Mr. Dribbles versus Sion, he's using Acute Pain, and this is going to increase damage 100% to a lightning type debuff target, and that's another bonus to Song of Thunder and particularly Song of Storm. So with his first hit, he will generally debuff a target and then have that bonus damage applied. So in the off chance they do or can live multiple hits, this just seals the deal, basically. Plus a little bit of extra critical damage can't hurt. But yeah, this is definitely an amazing ability that you don't see as much with Sion, mostly because stuff dies in one hit, and or occasionally if you're using Flash Kick or Annihilation Kick, the one that does 3 hits. We're also going to be taking Large Condenser for his core offensive masteries. You'd be surprised how fast Flash stacks. Hitting 999, especially with Mr. Dribbles, is very easy. He tends to have very high aggro, so they tend to love going after him, and it certainly creates an interesting dynamic with Flash. It just feels like he can always, one-shot or murder stuff while it's up, and definitely cool. Along with that, we're gonna need Thunder of Rage, and if you remember right, Song of Storm actually has only a 50% ESP power modifier, but 100% Lightning SP modifier. And this is what really sends his damage through the roof. You're curious, you could actually take off Killer's Mark and try messing around with Lightning Main and Lightning Reinforced Main, and you'd get some very interesting results. But Thunder of Rage really multiplies his damage, and so Large Condenser is just a great ability as a whole. Okay, and then for core defensive masteries, we're going to be taking Reinforced Nerve Network. If you guys have checked out my Sion video, you'll know that this is just base stats across the board. This is going to increase your armor, your resistance, and these are flat values, so these are always good. Block, dodge, speed, even his speed is respectable, especially with Thunder Veil, pushing it up to 100. This you're just going to find it all over the place, and it really... this is such an amazing ability, especially with enough lightning masteries. We're running approximately 20 to make sure we have 100% resistant shred from Giant Thunder. But this is great across the board. Of particular note, also overflowing energy. So of course this is going to be your AT reduction while in overcharge, and that is amazing, but it's also going to give you flash whenever you're in overcharge. So whenever you're gaining lightning SP while in overcharge, you'll be able to use stuff like Lightning Move and Thunder Veil, and those are going to trigger flash amounts to increase his damage even more. So he really doesn't need any bonus to damage whatsoever. And then we're going to be taking Escape Death. I always venture people to try things that are different, and this happens to work perfect synergy with the Gold Tongue build. So I've got a showcase for this that's going to be very interesting. But the short version of Escape Death is that with Cheating Death, you're going to have a 10% chance to revive if you get put out of action, which is not that great on its own. But Escape Death continues playing on that, and that if you trigger Luck, if you trigger Overcharge, if you trigger Lightning Reflexes, you're going to increase that chance higher and higher. And so this actually has a great comparison, I think, with Second Heart. I'm sure people think that why not just put on Second Heart. So the thing about Second Heart is that, all right, so for starters, it is only 3 TP and a single defensive slot use, which is pretty darn good. But when you get put out of action, you'll only recover once for 25% of the health. I'm going to put up a graph here of the differences between Second Heart versus Escape Death. But Cheating Death or Escape Death will actually have unlimited combat use. So you'll be able to use it as much as possible within the realm of Revive. On top of that, combined with Awaken and Argonaut that are already part of this build, you're actually only really adding Lightning Reflexes and Cheating Death. So it's only 4 training points. And what's neat about Cheating Death / Escape Death is that you'll be getting 100% health on Revive, and you'll still be taking your turn instantaneously. And on top of that, you're also going to have Lightning Reflexes, which is great for characters that can't take a lot of hits that well. And so I have some footage here. Okay, and this is the Escape Death Mastery Showcase. This is pretty cool. You guys know I love expanding on defenses, as defenses are much harder to prove and much easier to show. So Giselle summoned Mr. Dribbles, and by Cheating Death, he has a base 10% to revive. Of course, he got Luck from Killer's Mark. That's actually going to push it another 30%. So now he's at 40% chance to revive. Of course, with Awaken and going straight into Overcharge, that's going to push it another 30%. So he's going to go straight to 70% chance to revive right off the bat, if you guys changed nothing absolutely at all. So that's really not bad. That's basically a bloodbath chance, so that's really quite amazing. So we're going to Thunderveil, and then we're going to do Song of Storm. And, because the Skull team has a lot of impulse fields and, skull marks and stuff like that, they can take plenty of hits. But here's what's really neat. So Skull Slasher comes in, takes a huge chunk out of our wet friend, and now the fire supports are going to start going off from the Rangers. Now remember, the first fire support's going to trigger Lightning Reflexes. That's going to add another 10% chance to Cheating Death. So he was at 70, now he's at 80% chance to revive should he die. And what's cool here is, notice all these fire supports are missing. And that is 2 things at work here. Thunderveil, which is giving that 40% hit chance reduction on ranged attacks, and his naturally high dodge, which is about 60%, especially if you add in Brave Beast and all the stuff that's coming from Giselle. Now, Skull Pierce is going to connect, maybe because he's legendary, maybe just got a good hit in, and it's going to trigger bleeding. He's going to bleed out to death, but because he's an 80% chance to revive, he's going to get right back up again. And I love stuff like this where it takes it beyond the game. You wouldn't normally see these kinds of builds, but for Mr. Dribbles, the Killer's Mark just works so well with the luck and the defenses, Lightning Reflexes, everything combined together. This is such a great mastery set. And for core support masteries, we're going to be taking Awaken. For obvious reasons, this is going to give him instant overcharge. It's going to give him 300 SB, which along with Thunder Rage is just a massive amount of damage conversion. That's going to give him access to overflowing energy, which is going to be that AT reduction. It's just, this is just such an important ability, and this is quite common on a lot of endgame builds for pets. We're also going to be taking Happy Song. So this is actually going to reduce the action point on Thunderveil. Normally, Thunderveil would consume all action points. This is going to take it down to single action, which is really not bad. And you got to see some of that during the showcase there. And I really love Thunderveil. I think it's a great ability. And finally, we have the Sloppy Licks Showcase. Okay, I still can't say that. So we are on 50 Violent here, and this is what Mr. Dribbles is known for, is this assassination type effort. But he's going for a target that normally can't be assassinated, and that is the Schwartz Destron. Um, of course, Schwartz has been known to be one of the strongest enemy characters in the game. And there's actually going to be a lot at play here. For starters, he's using luck, so he would normally have all criticals on this Song of Storm, but Schwartz Destron has ESP neutralizing armor, so it's actually, and it doesn't say this in the tooltip, it's actually going to force all of his to be hits. Um, Now, his hit rate would be pretty good, especially with Luminescence, even if he didn't have it, but guaranteeing it is very nice. Now, what's interesting here is his first hit is what's going to land the electric shock debuff. And that from there, acute pain is going to take over and see the 2,000 damages that you see here. But I believe the first hit was about 1,027. It's usually, exactly half of what the amount would be. And so he kills Schwartz Destron literally in one go, and generally I can only think on one hand of characters that can do this without any trouble whatsoever in a single sweep. Immediately comes to mind would be Anne, Kylie, high multi-hit attack characters, but this is such a crazy idea coming from a pet. I think that's what's particularly interesting about this. And, you just don't see something like this. It'd be one thing if it was EMP'd and he killed it, but for it to be, from zero to, or from full to zero in just one fell swoop, that's insane. All right, guys, that wraps up this video. Special thanks to Nostro and Equilibrium. I think this was originally their conceptual idea. I've only changed the masteries around some and kind of made a video and explained defenses and stuff like that. But this is such a good idea at the time, a few months ago. Um, I highly recommend that people use their pets for situational use. So, an example, my first build was Sauron Volcano Crabmit, and he acts as basically like a siege tower, long range damage, artillery, and this is great for maps like 52 Violent where the Crabmits are really spread out, and so he can cover this wide range that no other pet can really do. Um, and then, with Gold Tongue here, Mr. Dribbles, he's an assassin type pet. You can see what he can do with Schwartz Destron. It would not surprise me in the least if he could one-shot Ben Schneider whenever that comes released. So this is definitely a pet that we're going to use well into the end of this DLC for sure. And I'm currently researching a good tank pet. There's obviously lots of good candidates. Glacier Tema is great. Frostraki Prince is great. Snow Mountain Crabmit is great. So if you guys have any ideas or thoughts on that, please let me know. But I'm going through all of them at the moment and just trying to find a good one to showcase in the future. Won't be the next video, but in the near future. Anyway, as always, if you guys enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. That's how we get the views, and want to expand this as far as we can to adding more viewers, hopefully adding more players to our Troubleshooter community. And then follow me on Twitch/YouTube. I should be streaming on YouTube in the near future. And until next time.